So, of course, a lot of those injuries in week one were very disappointing and are going to set some teams back big time, especially if, guys like we talked about, if Kuechly isn't able to come back quickly from that concussion, Carolina could be in big trouble.
Right.
They got to win. They got to win week one. Jacksonville, horribly disappointing. If you are, I believe it was in Jacksonville. So if you are at home and you can't beat a Carolina, and you lose to a Carolina team without Kelvin Benjamin and without Luke Kuechly for the second half by more than 10 points, it's going to be a very, very long season. They were very disappointing. But before we get to really the most disappointing team of week one, let's start it off with Cliff. Who were you most impressed by in the first week of the season?
Well, I don't know if I can say super impressed because we know about this team. This team has one of the best defensive lines out there. But the most impressive to me was the Rams. And I'm going to tell you why. I was never completely sold on Nick Foles. I think Fisher is one of those coaches that, not particularly on a hot seat, but he's father time. He's been in the league almost 16 seasons now. So we're thinking about we need some new fresh blood in there. They go out and beat honestly the team I didn't really pick to go to the playoffs this year, but still a very, 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 very good team. They go and beat Seattle, and they do it with honestly great defense. The defense was on point. Everything's there. Now, of course, it went to a nail biter, but the special team, everybody in that team just picked up. You got Tavon Austin, who looks great. They put him in the backfield, and he scores a touchdown. You know what? The Rams trade, to me, are going to be a scary team. I mean, the offense was stellar. The defense was stellar. The special teams was stellar. They come out, and it goes into an overtime game, and we're talking about a botched kick. But, that team just looks really good. They for the most part, they stopped Marshawn Lynch. I mean, they stopped on a 4th and 1. That team looks really, really, really good. And you know what's funny about that trade? You laugh a little bit. We all go into why Seattle passed that ball in the Super Bowl. And, because everybody knew they were going to run. So can we go back, Trey, and say maybe passing that ball wasn't such a bad idea because they were 4th and 1. Almost the same situation, just, different aspects. And they go with Marshawn Lynch, which everybody knew they were going to go with Marshawn Lynch. So, you know what? I think that the Rams just looks great all around the board, right? All around it. And how about Nick Foles, man? Honestly, I've never been so to Nick Foles, and he comes out game one rocking.
Against a great Seattle defense.
Yes.
When you talk about that play call, my biggest thing with the play call is why in the world are you in the shotgun on 4th and 1?
Yeah.
I understand how the shotgun has taken over the NFL, but get in the goal line set and pound the ball in there. You've got one of the best running backs in the NFL. You've got beast mode, Marshawn Lynch. Get him in there, run him behind the fullback, right behind the guard, and just get that first down that way, or even sneak it with Russell Wilson. Don't get in the shotgun and run a draw on 4th and 1. That's the problem I have with that play call. The Rams, I was very impressed with them as well. I was sold on them going into the offseason. I picked them to get a wild card spot in the NFL, lose the division just behind Seattle. I picked them to win this game just because it was in St. Louis, big first weekend game. I think they'll split the season series, go into Seattle. Nobody's going to win in Seattle. So I think that's gonna make some changes there. But I'm gonna talk about the team that I was most impressed with in week one, and honestly, it was the Cincinnati Bengals.
Whoa!
They weren't playing the best competition.
They played the Raiders, Trey.
In the Raiders, yes, but in the NFL, unless you're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you don't see a lot of blowouts anymore in the NFL. Like I said, most of these games this past weekend were one-score football games. But but Cincinnati went into Oakland, a team that had a lot of hope. Every team has a lot of hope. Derek Carr did go out in that game with an injury, but they have the older guard on defense, guys like Justin Tuck and stuff like that. So, there was some hype around Oakland, Amari Cooper, but Cincinnati, completely shut them down, 33-0. Andy Dalton looked great, and
Wow. You know what? I am not. I've never been so. I've always, I have a lot of Cincinnati Bengal friends. I was like, why are you spending money on Andy Dalton? And for the past 2 years, he hasn't shown us anything. I will say, against a very weak secondary of Oakland, he did look good. We all finally saw the Notre Dame Tyler Eifert. It's been a
Tyler
while
Eifert,
since
yep.
Tyler Eifert. Sorry, you know what? Black people have a hard time saying that, Trey. I'm just gonna put it out there. It's going to be Eifert for the rest of the season, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say Eifert. Trey's going to correct me and say Eifert. He finally saw the Notre Dame tight end he used to be. He did perform well. I will say that Andy Dalton, look at his progressions. It's all about the progressions, and he's gotten better with that. They did have a solid game. I won't say my most impressive team, but I will say that they have a solid game. You're right. We don't see that many more shutouts because we're in a very offensive league now. Which everybody's about points, and to go into the Raiders and shut them down was actually pretty good.
Yeah, and then Jeremy Hill, a lot of hype surrounding him this offseason, and he's really starting to live up to the hype. So Cincinnati looked great for me. They're going to have a bigger test this weekend, San Diego coming into their house, so that's going to be a very interesting game. But, we talked about this before we went on the air, but both of us have similar most disappointing teams. I'll let you go into yours first, and then I'll just let my anger fly.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. We each way we get there, we have a little brief talk before we get into these things. And anyway, I'll go into my most disappointing team here in a bit. To me, the most disappointing team for me was Minnesota, man. We had high hopes. Adrian Peterson's back. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, if you go back a couple years, Adrian Peterson missed a whole entire season with MCL and ACL injury. Took him out, comes back and runs 2,000 yards right off the bat. So he missed a whole entire year with the child abuse case he went through, and he comes back. Trey, he only had 31 yards. 31 yards. And then you have a better second-year Teddy Bridgewater. Honestly, I'm ready for the play action. I'm just ready to see the play action over and over and over again, and then utilizing that. Trey, they ran in shotgun. What is up with the league in shotgun and handing up? I'm telling you guys, I'm sorry, when you have a fullback as in Felton and you guys that offensive line, I mean, yeah, you had that right tackle go down at the beginning of the season, the preseason, which hurts. But I'm sorry, you need Adrian Peterson to be behind in the I formation or a single back under the center. He needs to build up that speed. He needs to build up that speed where he's honestly hard to bring down when he starts bringing up that speed in the backfield like that. To put him in shotgun and run like that and not utilize it. And Teddy Bridgewater, disappointing season for first game. And Trey, I can't sit here and say San Francisco has that good of an offense when they lost defense, I'm sorry, when they lost so many people.
Navarro Bowman looked great. I will give
he did.
The defense that, yes.
And San Francisco fans, I'm not going to take away. I have a few.
You picked them to win the division. I thought it was crazy, but
I did, and I'm sticking with it. And I still don't think Seahawks are going to make the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't. If you look at the schedule, they got tough. The next week is tough too as well. But anyway, I digress from that. The defense is lost. You expect them to go down there and Adrian Peterson touch the ball 28 times a game. He has to, Trey.
10 carries.
10 for 31. 10 for 31.
And you think when they're coming out there, a lot of hype surrounding Adrian Peterson returning, and he doesn't touch the ball at all on the first series, which was a shock to many. And also you want to talk about Bridgewater. A lot of what made him so good, and a lot of what last year was his accuracy. He did not look accurate whatsoever. A very bad game and a very bad start for Teddy Bridgewater. Minnesota was very disappointing, and I was on their bandwagon. I thought they were going to make the playoffs. I'm not so sure now, but now, I mean, Minnesota was very disappointing. But now we can talk about
the
true dumpster fire of the NFL, which is here in Tampa Bay. And I almost feel happy for my dad, who gets the Orlando TV stations, and they elected not to show the Buccaneers game is on TV there. They elected to show Baltimore and Denver instead of Tampa and Tennessee, and my dad was mad about it, but he didn't miss anything except for an absolutely horrible game.
But before you get into this, I just want to tell our viewers right now, Trey is stationed in Tampa. I'm stationed in Maryland. So and as sports analysts, we love football. We love the game of football, but of course we have our favorites. So Trey's gonna get into the dumpster fire. To him to say dumpster fire to his team. Trey, please elaborate. What's going on, man? 4 touchdowns for a NFL rookie. So please tell me.
I'll give Marcus Mariota this. Marcus Mariota looked great. Ken Wisenhunt had him coached up.
Yes.
Great game plan. They didn't show any of that, Oregon style offensive plays in the preseason, and they
quick releases too, man.
Yeah,
quick releases.
Absolutely. Quick release, just flick of the wrist, making it look easy. But let's talk about first. Let's talk about the other quarterback in this game. And no, I'm not talking about how Zach Mettenberger came in the fourth quarter. I'm talking about a quarterback who might be worse than Zach Mettenberger, and that is the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, and that's Jameis Winston. I was not sold on Jameis whatsoever. When you're throwing 18 interceptions against the likes of Wake Forest and Syracuse and NC State in college, we have a problem. People want to throw out that statistic that the ACC has more defensive players drafted in the last 5 years than even the SEC. I don't care. There's not a lot of secondary guys there, and it's a lot of teams that, a lot of those players, I'm not being a homer here, a lot of those players came from Virginia Tech. Jameis Winston did not play Virginia Tech when he was at Florida State, and a lot of those teams as well, they have one defensive star and they're getting drafted into the NFL. Jameis Winston's first NFL pass, a pick 6. And
he threw a touchdown. His first pass, though.
It took Marcus Mariota three throws to throw his first touchdown. James beat him to that with 1. But it's not just that he threw a pick 6 on his first NFL pass. It's the way that it was. It was completely telegraphed. He stared down the receiver. He saw the guy breaking on the ball. Cody Sensabaugh. Cody Sensabaugh is not Darrelle Revis. He's not Richard Sherman. He's a solid player, but to throw a pick 6, Tennessee went 2-14 for a reason last year.
Wait, Trey. I hate to cut you off, but Dick LeBeau, the great Dick LeBeau is the leader of that defense now. That's got to be something to say.
Yes, but when it's still your first NFL pass, the last guy that did that was Brett Favre.
Right.
So there could be hope. But the rest of that game did not give me or any fans in Tampa Bay very much hope. They got booed going into the locker room at halftime, which was completely deserved, and the stadium was pretty much empty probably halfway through the third quarter. So, when it comes to the Bucs, Jameis, I didn't really see any flashes of greatness. He threw 2 touchdown passes, both to Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who looked stellar and really could step up as, one of the top flight tight ends. All tight ends looked great. Tight ends had more touchdowns than wide receivers this past Sunday in the NFL. Doug Martin looked solid. He continued to show some flashes from the preseason, but you can't really run the ball when you get down 21-0 so quickly. There were a couple questionable calls by the refs that changed the momentum in the game after it was 21-7, right after they scored the touchdown. They blew the whistle early on Gerald McCoy's sack and fumble of Marcus Mariota, which the Buccaneers did recover in the end zone, would have made it a 21-14 game, completely a different ball game there. A questionable overturned call when it came to Doug Martin on 4th and 1. Looked like he got it. Not conclusive evidence at all. They moved the ball back. Tennessee gets it, goes down and scores, makes it 28-7. But what I really want to talk about, Jameis looked horrible, and I've said that all along. I don't really think that he's the guy. He's going to have to improve. You can't get much worse than that. He probably should have had 4 interceptions. He was struggling to make handoffs. When you talk about a rookie's first start in the NFL,
right.
You want to show the number 1 pick next year. put in some tape. This is not what you want to be. Do the exact opposite of this. Marcus, you want to show him what Marcus Mariota did. That was absolutely stellar. But Jameis just looked absolutely horrible. We can talk about this defense. And, last year a lot of people criticized Leslie Frazier as calling the defense. It did not look great. Lovie Smith took over the play calling for the defense. He called the plays on Sunday, and it looked absolutely horrible. You have some solid stars on that defense. You have Gerald Ford. You have Levante David. You have, Alteron Werner, who looked absolutely horrible against his former team in Tennessee, getting burned multiple times. But the question here is the scheme of that defense. When you're running a soft zone on the 1 yard line and they're able to throw a quick slant in there for a touchdown, that's just horrible coaching. The first touchdown of the game, a lot of people want to blame Levante David for coming up and biting on the handoff, but it was more that he's coached to be there. This cover 2 shell defense, there's too much space in the middle of the field, and those slants across and crossing routes across the middle of the field were there all day long. And I mean, if you're going to run that defense, okay, but at least disguise it at the line of scrimmage before you get into that coverage. They showed what they were going to do. They did it, and a rookie quarterback ripped it apart.
There was one play where I watched a little bit of the game too. There was one play where you're in that cover 2. So your middle of the field is kind of exposed a little bit, Trey, because those safeties are playing a little back to watch the outside. There was a play where Marcus Mariota did a little college little fake. I'm going to give the play to Bishop Sankey and throws a dart. You talking about flicking the wrist. He throws a dart right to Hunter, and Hunter goes downfield, runs down for a touchdown.
Yeah, I think that was the first touchdown of the game that I was talking about. A lot of people, Levante David sold out a little bit on the run.
Yeah.
That's what he's coached. That's what he's coached to do. And I hate to say it, but if Lovie Smith is not going to – he did great in Chicago. I don't want to say Lovie Smith has completely lost it, but I don't know if this defense is really going to work in the NFL now. And, with a quarterback and a coach that a lot of people were very excited to bring in here in Tampa Bay, I think that, I hate to say it, but it's next year you might be starting completely over again.
So, Trey, going into that and going to our next segment, would you say that Lovie Smith is on the hot seat already? Already after week 1, do you say he's on the hot seat?
Yeah, after you go 2-14 last year and you look that horrible, if they continue to play that bad, looking at the schedule right now, I hate to say it as a Bucs fan, I picked them to go 7-9. If they don't change things immediately, there's one winnable game on that schedule, and that's home against the Jaguars.
So you thinking if they were going to take that's the only win?
That could be the only win. They went 2-14 last year, and they looked just as bad, if not worse. Carolina at home is a possible win as well. With the defense, that's probably going to be like your Virginia Tech and Wake Forest 6-3 double overtime game last year, right there. Doug Martin and Austin Seferian-Jenkins look good. Mike Evans did not play, so that's true. That's something. Vincent Jackson still had a pretty solid game considering that they could really sell out to cover him with no Mike Evans. But I really think Lovie's on the hot seat if they go into these next 2 games against at New Orleans this coming Sunday and then at Houston the next week and get blown out again. There's really going to be fuel to the fire when they're booing you at halftime of the first game and the stadium is empty in the third quarter. That's a problem. And I really think that Lovie is on the hot seat. I hate to say it, a lot of hype, but I don't know who they're going to take on. Maybe Dirk Cutter, the offensive coordinator we brought in from Atlanta. Maybe he steps up to be the interim coach if Lovie gets canned during the season. But if you go 2-14 again, this fan base is not going to take it, especially after what happened with Greg Schiano. You can't fail this much. You're going to have to pull the plug early. They pulled the plug early on Schiano after only 2 seasons. And it's been worse with Lovie Smith. So,
Well, Trey, we honestly want to love Lovie. We really do. And you're right. This fan base is, you guys are coming really, from the bottom. You guys are really trying to come back. You guys pushed for the NFL to cancel blackout dates, which you guys had a big problem in your city when they black it out in your city when your own fans can't watch the game. You guys fought. You guys are one of the big vocal leaders to fight not to have that happen. NFL heard your calls. So your fan base is solid. You guys want to see your team succeed. I mean, you're coming from a Super Bowl based fan base. And the stadium's tremendous. The stadium's lovely in the area. I mean, it's the only thing you have. I mean, we're not going to talk about Tropicana, but anyway, you're really a good fan base to have your team succeed. I mean, to have the team to do so badly.
And they actually sold out this first game, 65,000 people in Ray J. But then, I mean, in the third quarter, there's 20,000 people. It's unacceptable. And, Lovie Smith could be the first coach fired during the season, but a guy that if he doesn't succeed and possibly take his team to the Super Bowl could be on the hot seat already. A guy that you're familiar with from his history in Baltimore. What do you think about the rumblings already about Chuck Pagano and upper management in Indianapolis being on different terms? It sounds like the Jim Harbaugh situation from last year to me.
You know what? I have Jim Harbaugh situation circled on my piece of paper here, Trey, for talking notes, and it does. It sounds like that they want to keep him. They want to keep him when they're talking about contract extensions. But Chuck Pagano's team said it was almost, and I quote, disrespectful what the offer they brought to the table to talk to Chuck Pagano with. But now, do you kind of rescind that contract extension when honestly, let me talk about his rap sheet right here. Okay, Chuck Pagano's first year, he goes down for cancer. Trust me, cancer is a big thing in my family too as well. I understand that. You have Bruce Arians come in and take over that team, and they do good. But Chuck Pagano was not there for most of the season. Second season, they did very well. So that puts the talk for extension on the table. It shows him it's like, all right, here's my first season actually coaching the whole entire season, and they do very well going to the AFC Championship game to lose to eventually the Super Bowl champs. Now, let's talk about contract extensions. Let's get it on the table. And apparently, I don't know, we weren't there in the room, but Indianapolis goes in. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I know Chuck Pagano. I was sad to see him go. Have Dean Pease to step in there. I'm not really sold on Dean Pease yet, but honestly, he made me a believer after the Broncos game. We'll talk about that later. You know what? He's a great coach. He's a defensive-minded coach, but he's actually a very good coach. The players want to play for him. Here's his chance to show what honestly a Super Bowl team here, Super Bowl caliber team. And let's say, you know what? Let's get you extension. And he Chuck Pagano sees the paper and he's like, no, Trey, I'm not taking this deal. I'm not doing this. He's pulling a Joe Flacco, man. He said, I'll let my coaching show what I'm worth. And he loses to the Buffalo Bills. Now, a great team, a great team. But to lose like that at home, you kind of have to say, well, and it's like the Jim Harbaugh situation. Well, coach, you have this great team, but it's not looking so good so far. Where's your run game, coach? Where's your run game?
Exactly. When you look at that situation last year, San Francisco, very talented roster, but they basically got to the point where they were Super Bowl or bust, and Indy is reaching that level right now. And if they don't succeed this year, that plagued San Francisco all last season. They ended up missing the playoffs. I don't see that happening to Indy. They need to get on a little bit of a run and take some of this pressure off of Pagano, off of this situation.
Yes.
And I still stand by my prediction that they are going to win the Super Bowl, and then Pagano will get his extension after that. So I think, but if Pagano does get fired, all of these coaches are going to be lining up to coach Andrew Luck. I think even a guy like John Gruden could be a possibility in Indianapolis. That would be interesting. Looking at some other coaches that might be on the hot seat. Mike Pettin not looking very good in Cleveland. And then an interesting one as well. I don't think they're going to fire him, but I think if they have a bad season in bad situations, Tom Coughlin, it could be the end of the road in New York if they continue to have, that was completely Eli's fault. I'll give him that. But when you're losing close games, that's a game that you really need to win. If you can get a win on the road in the division first week of the season, I picked them to win the division. Tom Coughlin has had up and down years in New York, but if this season does not continue to pick up, I think it might end up being the last one for Coughlin.
Well, Trey, actually, I want to go and touch another Gruden that you answered. Honestly, this is like my star player. I think they're going to fire, honestly, within the season. I think they're going to fire the head coach for the Redskins, Ron.
Jay Gruden.
Yeah. Jay Gruden. Yes. I think they're going to fire him. When you have a scandal where you have Kirk Cousins and RG3 there. Now, I'm sorry, that's a difficult situation going. But last year they had a horrible season. They were honestly up here in the DMV or DC, Maryland, Virginia area. They were already talking about, like, do we really want Jay Gruden? He wants an Andy Dalton quarterback, and he does not have that. He goes into the season making a questionable call, even though RG3 did have concussions, and RG3 is not the greatest quarterback. But honestly, I felt like the boy from Texas, what's his name? McCoy. I thought McCoy did better than all of them. And then you say, you know what? Kirk Cousins is a quarterback. Kirk Cousins looked terrible, Trey. Kirk Cousins looked terrible. Kirk Cousins looked terrible against Mount Ravens in the preseason. And that's saying a lot because we looked horrible in the preseason. Everybody destroyed us in the preseason. But Kirk Cousins looked horrible. McCoy did better than all three of them. And you say Kirk Cousins is my starting quarterback. I think him and RG3 have a disagreements right there already. Honestly, I think they fire him before the season's over. That's the coach in the hot seat.
I mean, it's a possibility. I think Dan Snyder has always liked RG3. It's clear that Jay Gruden doesn't. It's only his second season. We'll see what happens there. Second season coaches Jay Gruden and Lovie Smith both not looking good. The seat is really hot for the both of them. And we're gonna wait and see. It's week 1. We're talking about coaches on the hot seat, but now we talked about hot seat, but now we're gonna get into a little rapid fire here before we close out, and we'll see you next week. But first, we're gonna get into both of us are fantasy football guys. Cliff's a little bit more into the fantasy football than I am, so each week we're going to give you a little bit of a side pick other than exactly what's on the field. Cliff is going to give you a fantasy football sleeper to look at, and I'm going to take a look at the betting lines over in Vegas. You want to make a little bit of money on these NFL games. I'm going to give you a betting line to look at this weekend. But Cliff, we're going to start with you. Who is your guy that you have to start this weekend in fantasy football?
Well, you know what, guys? I was a big guy on him while he was in college. I honestly wanted the Ravens to draft him. Of course, he got picked up a second-round pick. I think Amir Abdullah is going to be something to see. Now, he's going against a very good defense in Minnesota. But, guys, his first game against San Diego, who has a solid defense, Amir Abdullah did well. I mean, he only in ESPN only got up to 8 points, but I mean, his rookie year, he has some flashes already, Trey. I think, guys, if you don't have him, you should go on your waivers wire and pick up Amir Abdullah. He's a solid running back to have in your flex position. Honestly, he's a player that could be breaking out for the rest of the season. I have in both of my fantasy leagues in the bench because I was so like, maybe Amir Abdullah. He did well in the preseason. Ladies and gentlemen, look at Amir Abdullah. He's not the starting running back there, but he could be. And the Lions use a lot of screens there. He's a great screen player. He's quick-feeted. Honestly, guys, look at Amir Abdullah. Pick him up on your waivers wire.
Amir Abdullah did certainly live up to the hype in his first NFL regular season game. Looked great in the preseason. We're going to see what he continues to do. Great fantasy, not even a sleeper anymore. He's on the front page for everybody now. And the betting line that I'm interested in this week is one that you might think, I'm going to go the other way on it. Pittsburgh, coming off of a tough loss at home, on the road to New England, comes home, and the San Francisco 49ers, who look great on Monday night, come in, and Pittsburgh's favored by 6 points, which is one of the biggest, other than Indy being favored at home by 7 against the Jets on Monday night. That's the biggest line this season. So you think you want to jump on San Francisco after, they look great on Monday night. But Pittsburgh is coming off of a long week of rest. They're coming home. And San Francisco, a very emotional win, Jim Tomsula's first game. A lot of people think they're going to be horrible, and they prove some people wrong. So what I think is going to happen there, I like Pittsburgh with even giving the 6 points to San Francisco right there. I'm never really a big fan of West Coast teams coming east for 6 o'clock games because that's like a 10 o'clock game for them, 10 o'clock in the morning game for them. Pittsburgh having the long week of rest, San Francisco having the short week of rest. I like Pittsburgh over San Francisco with the 6 points. So now we're going to get in. That's with the lines, but now we're going to get into our final segment of the week. We're going to pick the games, but first, Cliff, what game are you most interested in watching this weekend? And I know you got a good one.
You know what, ladies and gentlemen, we actually had a good week of football in general in the football league. We got some great games, but the game that I see stick out the most, ladies and gentlemen, Bills versus Pats. I want to talk a little briefly about this. The Pats, I mean, honestly, almost caught again, cheating again with the whole mix-up with the Pats, radio station coming into the coaches' lines. They're going to Buffalo to play. And honestly, the Bills, man, we're going to talk about it again. They look good. They look really, really good. Do they have the defense to stop, Gronkowski and the boys? However, Trey, they got Darius coming back, baby. You paid this guy $65 million. He's coming back. That defensive line is already strong. Do they have what it takes to stop Tom Brady under pressure? Which honestly, Pittsburgh got no pressure on him last week. Honestly, that's the game that sticks out to me the most, Trey. Honestly, the Bills and Pats are the game of the week.
That's a great one right there. You've got some other good ones. Some of the primetime games: Dallas at Philly, Seattle at Green Bay. Very good games right there. But the one I'm interested in, is San Diego at Cincinnati. Cincinnati looked great. Cincinnati looked great. 33-0 win over the Raiders in Week 1. San Diego had a rough start against Detroit at home. Come back and get a victory. They're coming East Coast for a 1 o'clock game. I told you I don't really like West Coast teams doing that, but Keenan Allen, Phillip Rivers look great, so it's going to be interesting to see. That's a matchup of teams that could be fighting for a wild card playoff spot, and this is a game in Week 2 that we could be looking at in Week 17 to decide which team ends up making the playoffs. But before we get out of here, we're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to tell you who's going to win each game this coming weekend in the NFL. And we're going to start off with the Thursday night game. Denver, 1-0, coming off a win over your Ravens, Cliff. They're going to Kansas City on Thursday night. Tell me who's going to win that one.
I got KC winning that one. They're at home. It's hard to play in Arrowhead. Peyton Manning's hurt. He didn't look good against the Ravens. I will say the Ravens defense is impressive, but he didn't look good against the Ravens, and he's already hurt already. I got Kansas City winning that one. What about you, Trey?
I think I'm going to go Kansas City there as well. The offense did not look great for Denver. Kansas City let Houston get back in it a little bit late in the game, but they look good as well, starting off 1-0. Kansas City, I think they're going to be a playoff team this year. Travis Kelce, another big week. Denver's defense looks stellar, so it's really going to be an interesting game. But I think in Arrowhead, Kansas City wins that one.
Alex Smith looked good too, actually. Alex
Smith did look good. Second game, another interesting game that should be a defensive battle. We'll see if Luke Kuechly plays. This could be a matchup of the two best defensive players in the NFL right now. J.J. Watt and the Houston Texans head to Carolina to face Cam Newton and the Panthers. Who you got in this one, Cliff?
Can we stop calling them Houston Texans, calling them J.J. Watts? That's pretty much what they're going to call them. I mean, I know they got Hopkins there. Honestly, I think Panthers are home. They're coming off it's a disappointing win against Jacksonville. I think they want to prove some. Honestly, Houston has no run game to me. Blue can't do it. There's nobody there. Aaron Foster being hurt. I really have Panthers winning this one.
I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I think Houston pulls it out.
Okay.
Bill O'Brien said nobody's going to know who the starting quarterback is till they take the field. I think you have to go with Ryan Mallett with how horrible Hoyer looked against Kansas City, and Mallett came in, brought him back into, made a game of it. So I thought Mallett was the guy to go with from the start. So I'm going to go Houston on that one in Carolina. Now, this next game, I already basically told you who I was going to pick, San Francisco at Pittsburgh. I told you to take Pittsburgh with the 6 points. I think Pittsburgh wins this one by 10 points. It's no Le'Veon Bell still, but I think Pittsburgh has enough talent on that offense and that passing game to beat San Francisco on a short week for San Francisco. Who you got in that one, Cliff?
I want to make an easy pick for me on this one. I hate to say it. I'm sorry, Ravens fans, but I got Pittsburgh winning this. They also have no Bryant there as well.
Yeah.
And Martavis Bryant actually came up and was a stellar. But Heath Miller, really, I played it against fantasy. I was almost scared. Heath Miller was a solid player down there that, Roethlisberger liked to check down to. And honestly, Williams did not look bad. He did very, very good with 100 yards.
Williams looked good, yeah.
Yeah, it was very good. Easy winner for me. I got Pittsburgh winning on that one, to be honest with you.
Next one, Tampa Bay going to New Orleans. Easy pick. If you're in an eliminator pool this weekend, go against the Bucks. New Orleans gets their first win of the season at home. I think Drew Brees is going to be able to carve up the defense.
Easy one for me, man. Saints all the way. They're playing a Superdome. There's no way Bucks win this one. They just look really bad. Sorry, Bucks fans. You're going 0-2 this year again.
Next game of the week, two teams that were kind of disappointing, both off to 0-1 starts, need to get back on track. Detroit at Minnesota. This is a very tough one for me, but I think I'm not ready to completely jump off of the Minnesota bandwagon. I'm going to go with Minnesota in this one. Detroit lost Sue and Fairley, so there's questionable in the middle of that defensive line. I think they can get back to Adrian Peterson and get him some carries. AP has a big game this weekend. Minnesota beats Detroit.
Zimmer's a good coach, guys. Zimmer's a very good coach, a defensive-minded coach. That defense is stellar. Even with the loss, their defense did look really good. I already have Minnesota winning at home.
All right, so now we're going to get into Arizona and Chicago. Arizona beating the Saints week 1. Chicago giving the Packers more of a fight than a lot of people expected them to start off the season. But I think Arizona's the better team. I think Chicago, I'm not sold on Chicago, even though it is a Western team coming east for a 1 o'clock game. I still like Arizona over Chicago this week.
Easy pick for me, Trey. Arizona. Going to the next game, I want to.
Great.
Yeah, he did. He did. Carson Palmer looked great. Ellington is hurt, by the way. Another player we didn't really touch on. He's hurt, but
Chris Johnson.
Ladies and gentlemen, watch out for Chris Johnson. Maybe we have another waiver spot player. I don't know. We will see. But I honestly have Arizona win this one away. One next game I want to go talk to a little bit about. I just kind of lost order here, Trey, but the Redskins look really bad against a Dolphins team who didn't look that good. They're still at home, but they're playing the Rams. Honestly, Trey, I have Rams destroying. I got a shutout. Risk goes down. I got Rams winning. What about you?
The Rams defensive line is going to absolutely obliterate Washington, and they're going to put huge pressure on Kirk Cousins. I bet RG3 is actually kind of glad that he's not playing against Aaron Donald and the rest of that St. Louis defense. I think St. Louis wins that one. So we're going to save our two picks for games of the week till the end. So now we're going to go into Tennessee and Cleveland, one team that looked a lot better than last year and one that did not look that great. We could see a Johnny Manziel versus Marcus Mariota matchup in this one.
Fun.
It would be very fun. I don't know if Manziel or McCown is going to play. I would favor Cleveland a little bit more if Manziel is going to play, just because of the conservative nature that you're going to get with the Josh McCown offense there. But I still think Tennessee wins either way. I don't necessarily think that Cleveland's defense is better than the Bucs, so I don't think Marcus Mariota is going to look as good. But I think Tennessee, they've got a lot of confidence coming off of that week, and I think Tennessee beats Cleveland in Cleveland.
I'm going to stay in the same AFC North division. I'm going to say the Browns pulled this one out. I don't know if you really watched the Jets game. When Manziel came in, it was a big difference. He looked great. Threw a dart to Benjamin for a touchdown. We're not starting Tennessee yet. They played a bad Bucs team. I honestly think Browns come out and win it at home. I mean, it's hard to win. It's hard to win it in a dog pound. It really is hard to win in a dog pound.
Yeah. A very interesting game. One team that had held on to a big win at the end, and another team that lost a win at the end. Atlanta at the New York Giants. A lot of pressure on Eli coming this week. Atlanta looked very good. Emotion at home. Season opener, Dan Quinn's first game against Philly. I think that the Giants actually pull this one out in a close one against Atlanta. This is going to be a very good game.
I got Falcons winning this one, Trey. Honestly, I just think, I hate to say it, Matt Ryan looks good. Julio Jones is a beast. I mean, they have a good secondary there, a decent secondary with Prince, and I actually don't know their other corner, for the Giants. But honestly, I got Falcons winning this one out. Who's up the corner, Trey?
That says a lot that you don't know their other corner. They drafted Landon Collins out of Alabama. He's one of their starting safeties. But that secondary is very weak. Prince Amukamara, I thought he was stellar coming out of college, but the rest of that secondary. So you could see Roddy White and Julio Jones both having big games. Now we're going to go into an interesting game. It's an all-Florida matchup. The Miami Dolphins head to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. This is a really tough one because I'm still not sold on Miami, but Jacksonville looks so bad against Carolina. But you know what? It's in-state rivals of sort.
Yes.
I'm going to take a flyer. This is my upset pick of the week. Jacksonville gets the win over Miami at home. Maybe their only win of the season.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have a little bit of Homer here too, because he did go to UCF a little bit, so he's a little Blake Bortles kind of guy, and I know that state loved Blake's. I mean, honestly, if you look, Blake Bortles was actually on the bracket for voting a couple years back. A lot of people vote for Blake Bortles back there for the Democratic nominations. Anyway, yeah, honestly, Trey, it's not really. I'm not sold on the Dolphins either. I'm not sure that running game. I do have Tannehill coming up with the win. You're not a bad pick. I do have Dolphins winning this, but that's not really a bad pick against Jacksonville at home. But yeah, I got Dolphins winning that one though, Trey.
All right, now we're going to go on to Baltimore and Oakland. Derek Carr, questionable if it looks like he's going to play now because his thumb is not broken. Baltimore losing Terrell Suggs, but Oakland looked horrible last week against Cincinnati. They're at home again. It's a big game. Jack Del Rio really needs to turn things around in Oakland, but I'm still going to favor Baltimore in this matchup.
Do we really have to know what my pick is? I mean, but anyway, I got Baltimore.
We're just gonna go on to Dallas and Philly.
Go ahead, brother.
Dallas losing Des Bryant is big. Philly needs to get a big win coming off of that rough loss on Monday night. I think Philly and Chip Kelly gets his first win of the season. I think DeMarco Murray has a pretty good game up against his former team.
I think Eagles. By the way, guys, Ravens all day. Anyway, I feel like Philadelphia learns from his past mistakes, runs the ball a little more. Murray's he wants the ball now. He's playing against his old team. He wants to prove a point. He's upsetting. I think it's going to be a vengeance battle. I think Philadelphia comes up with the win here as well.
Now we're going to go on to the Sunday night game. It's a big one. Seattle at Green Bay, Lambeau Field. Tough place to play. But I think Seattle's going to be angry coming off of that loss to St. Louis. Seattle, I still pick them to go to the Super Bowl this year. They beat Green Bay at home last year, and this is the matchup of the NFC Championship. It's losing Sam Barrington is big for Green Bay. We don't know what's going to happen yet. Maybe in the next couple days, Seattle will settle things with Cam Chancellor and get him in there. That would be huge and make me more confident in this. But I'm going to go Seattle on the road in Green Bay, picking up the win.
This is my Super Bowl pick versus my surprise team not to make the playoffs pick. 10 down to me. I think Green Bay, I think Aaron Rodgers is too stellar. Eddie Lacy back there with the one-handed catch looked beautiful. Eddie Lacy looks good. Seattle better pay Cam Chancellor, man. That's the reason why they're picking to win. To go to the playoffs again. But yeah, Green Bay hands down. I think Green Bay wins this easy.
All right, now we're going to go to the Monday night game. Big game.
Yes.
As close to a must-win as you can get in Week 2. Indianapolis hosting the Jets. The Jets have a big win in Week 1. Indianapolis has a tough loss. I just think Andrew Luck in that offense. The Jets put up 31 points in Week 1. I don't see them doing that again. I think Andrew Luck outscores the Jets, takes advantage of that Cromartie injury, and picks on D. Milliner a little bit. Hopefully T.Y. Hilton will end up playing. So we're going to see what happens. But I think Indy gets back on the right track and beats the Jets at home.
This is my sleeper pick and my actually surprise pick. Honestly, I watched Jets a game a little bit. Fitzgerald looks good. Fitzgerald and Brandon Marshall look good. Looks like they have a little bit of connection. Honestly, Trey, I got Jets coming out with the win. I know Cromartie is down. I think Revis is enough for that team. Terrell Pryor, that defense looks good. I got Jets winning this one. That's my surprise pick of the week. I got Jets coming out with the win.
That would be a big upset. But now we're going to look at our 2 games that we picked as the games of the week. Honestly, we're going to go with the one I chose first. We're going to go with San Diego at Cincinnati. I think it's going to be a very good game. But like I said, I picked Cincinnati to make the playoffs. I picked San Diego to miss the playoffs. And I think this game could be the difference. West Coast team coming east. I think Andy Dalton and the Bengals start off 2-0 and beat the Chargers at home.
I hate to say it, they're up running they're the only team in the AFC North to actually win a game last week. I got to go with Cincinnati too as well, Trey. I really don't see Phillip Rivers, really pulling this win out actually for this team. So yeah, I'm going Cincinnati as well.
All right, and now we're going to go to what, probably is the game of the week. All eyes are going to be on this one. Can Buffalo continue to look great? Is that defense going to get after Tom Brady? Can Tyrod Taylor still do it against a defense that New England has? New England at Buffalo. I still have huge questions about New England's secondary. Buffalo fans are going to be hyped up after they beat Indy in Week 1. Buffalo is going to go 2-0 and beating the 2 teams that were in the AFC Championship last year in back-to-back weeks. Tyrod Taylor, first 2 starts in the NFL, is going to beat Andrew Luck and Tom Brady.
Look at the homer. Look at the VT fans talking about the VT by Tyrod Taylor. No, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we and Trey don't really agree on a lot of things here, but today we actually have a little bit here. I think the Bills up there in New York upstate New York was a different country actually. They really have this team looking good. Rex Ryan, I think he hates the pass more than any other fan out there. I think he just can't stand the pass. He despises the pass. He knows the pass with this defense, and with Marcel Darius coming back into that rotation, honestly, I got the Bills shutting down Tom Brady and getting that pass rush. That ball's not as light as he used to. It has air in it now. It has air in it now. So I honestly think that Bills go there and shut down the pass. Not a blowout, but I think that they struggle and Bills come out and win this game.
So there we have it. We put our money where our mouth is. Picks for the weekend. And
keep score, ladies and gentlemen. Keep score.
And that's going to do it for this week's edition of the TD Experience NFL podcast. We're going to be back at you next week before the Thursday night game to preview all of next week's action. Take a look back at this weekend as well. As always, for Cliff Kidwell, I am TD himself, Trey Downey. We will see you next week. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at TD Experience. Where can the folks get at you on Twitter, Cliff?
They can go over here with Teddy Bear Cliff. That is my handle. I'm sticking to it. A grown man being called Teddy Bear. I love it. You like it too. Real quick, I want to say I got real quick. I have a Facebook message of the week with one of our viewers who is actually watching. Funny thing, she said her name is Jacqueline. She said she'd rather eat crab legs than watch the Bucks play. Sorry. And crab legs are really tough,
and you get barely in meat for a lot of work, so that's understandable. Get at us both on Facebook. You add us and go to the TD Experience page, like it, comment there, send us tweets. We're big on fan interaction here. We're going to do a lot more of that in the future. And just listen to the podcast. Check us out. Leave a review. Let us know what you think. We want to continue to get better. And, we'll see you next week. We're out of here.
Appreciate the love, guys. Appreciate the love. We're out.